I just want to make sure that you guys go out there and tweet, Facebook, Instagram. So the hashtag is Booksmart Movie. Go out and tell all your friends. The movie comes out May 24th next week. So go bring your friends out there, double date, do whatever you gotta do. Well, without further ado, I want to bring up our moderator for tonight, Trobel Anderson. And then I also want to bring up the what you've been waiting for, the cast and crew. Give it up for Austin Crude. Mason Gooding. Eduardo Franco. Beanie Feldstein. Kaitlyn Dever. And the amazing director, Olivia Wilde.
Yes. Did y'all like the movie? Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Thank you. This is a wild bunch, FYI. We were living our lives, in the green room. But I'll start with you, Olivia. Talk to us about, where did this idea come from? Where did the inspiration come from? How did you go about, actualizing it?
Well, I was very excited to make a movie that was kind of a love letter to the movies that made me fall in love with movies themselves. I grew up watching movies like The Breakfast Club and Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Say Anything and Ferris Bueller's Day Off and Clueless. And these are movies that really kind of contextualized adolescence for me. And the music just helped me get through life. I just found myself feeling seen by watching these movies, and I wanted to make movies because of how I felt watching them. And that's what kind of interested me in getting involved in this crazy, crazy business. But it took me a long time to realize that I actually wanted to make one of my own. And Booksmart is this incredible collaboration of so many different people who had that same love for this genre and love for this generation, and wanted to use this opportunity to say something real about this moment in time and how young people are claiming their voices and changing the paradigm and demanding a better, more equal, more fluid, more evolved society. And they just inspire me endlessly. So this movie is everything that I dreamed it would be and more, because of the people you see in front of you and the rest of our incredible Booksmart family.
Kaitlyn and Beanie, talk to us a little bit about why y'all said yes. So what about the script made you say, I need to be the co-lead of this movie?
Well, I read Booksmart about 4 years ago and about fell out of my chair when I finished reading it. I was laughing the entire time. It was a really refreshing story for me. I don't get, movies sent to me that are about two females leading a movie that are funny and smart in their own way. That has never been brought to me before. And I loved it endlessly. And I waited and waited and waited around for it to be made. And then 2 years later, Olivia was brought on, and she still wanted me to be a part of it, which I was like, oh, thank God I'm not fired. And then she said to me that this movie is not being made without Beanie Feldstein as Molly. It's just not happening. And I was a huge fan of hers, and I love her so much. And then I was like, I have to do this. I have to. Just insanity. I had no idea that was happening. We were having this conversation, and I was just sitting in New York. I read it about 3 years ago, and originally was reading for a role that kind of doesn't really exist in that same form anymore in the movie, because it's shaped and been shaped and grown over time. But then I got a call from my agents that was like, hey, Olivia Wilde wants to have lunch with you. And I was like, you called Beanie.
And they were like, yeah, we know. And I was like, no, that doesn't make sense because you called me. And they're like, Beanie, you. She wants to have lunch with you. And I was like, I still don't get it. And we had an incredible meeting, and Olivia just had the most fresh, distinct, clear take for this script that I had loved so much when I read it, which was she pitched it to me as training day for high school. And we talked about our high school experiences, and they were so similar, and how the stakes of high school are so incredibly high and live so beautifully. It was like, I don't want to make a film that is belittling that or looking down on that or making fun of that. I want to make a film that is thinking critically about that and celebrating that and seeing how those stakes and that pressure lead to certain decisions. And also I want it to be insanely funny and fresh and vibrant. And I was like, is Kaitlyn still Amy? Because I had known that she had been attached, and she was like, oh yeah. And I was like, oh my God. It was the easiest yes in the world. It was literally the easiest yes in the world. I felt honored to even be included in the film in any capacity. Yay.
For my gentleman at the end, starting with you, Eduardo, talk to us a little about like coming up with your characters. Each of you have like a little moment in the film. Talk to us about figuring out what that was going to look like for you.
So for me, my character Theo, he wasn't really made yet until I was like in the room chilling with these lovely ladies, and that was literally day one. They're like, he's basically been recruited for Google, and he's been held back a couple of years, so he's not at the age of what a high school senior would be. So I was like, okay, cool, thank you. And then they were like, he's got a little thing for his English teacher. And I was like, oh, okay, so we're gonna actually simulate sex in this movie. And they're like, nah, don't get your hopes up, man. So a lot of respect for Jessica, though. She's great. But no, they were just like, they gave me those plot points, and then just since he was interested in older, more distinguished, more mature woman, I said, okay, so he's not going to be the typical raunchy, how do you say it, fuckhead in high school. So he's going to actually be like, oh no, I actually, like, you know, what that, I guess you see it in the movie when when it's time to get it on, it's like, let's get it on, but with very careful, curious respect, So it was basically like we would get together maybe a couple minutes before we start shooting the scene, and it's like, what if this time you do this? And it's like, okay, and then we tried it. Like the braids, like. That was like on the day that we decided, what if you add braids on the party, right? At the party?
Yeah. I will say though, you came in during pre-production and we had that meeting and you had so many amazing ideas. I mean, that's the thing, like everyone in this movie worked so hard to create their characters and put so much into them, and it was so exciting just to roll with their brilliant ideas and to follow their essence and their imaginations. And Eduardo, in that first meeting, he's like, yeah, I mean, maybe the way he talks about women, it's like, well, with the fuck, marry, kill, he's like, he has real opinions about marriage. Like, maybe he doesn't believe in the institution. We were like, write that down, that's his line. So, that character is entirely his. And it was so exciting. I mean, that's true for everybody on stage. It was so exciting just to say, like, this character is but a blueprint. You fill it in, and he's right. After the initial rehearsals, which also involved play dates that I would set them up on, I'd say, you guys have to go and hang out, get to know each other, build a friendship that feels like it's years old. And they did. They'd send me videos of them like slicing oranges.
Fruits, yeah.
With machetes.
But no, it was a big old.
Boys do. I mean,
Yeah.
What was that sword? What was that
It was
sword?
like Braveheart,
Yeah.
sword.
I'm just a big Game of Thrones fan, and so I had a big fuck off sword, and we were just cutting lemons with it in the backyard. But that's it. Neither here nor there.
Great research.
Yes.
Mason, talk to us a little about your character.
Of course. I mean, the inception of Nick, I would say, couldn't really be discussed without mentioning Olivia's ability to create a collaborative atmosphere and effort with all of her actors, but specifically I'll speak on me because that's all I really can talk on. But I guess before I was even auditioned for the role, before it was edited to be what it was, Nick was, I think, a lacrosse playing East Coast prep boy, and through, I guess, a lot of time and reworking, ended up being who it was as you saw it. This sort of all positive, loving public figure of the high school that would essentially act as the moderator between the people that maybe didn't feel as included and the others that did most of the including. And because of that, a lot of the stuff he does gets, at least as is showcased in the film, idealized in the different characters around him. For example, Molly really wants him to be a great dancer, and she wants him to be these things.
Mason Gooding has never danced in his life.
Never
And
was.
how good was he? It was literally, I almost cried when we did it because he worked so hard. It was so collaborative.
Only because I had such an amazing partner. Don't get it twisted. Beanie's the most patient, most lovely, the most gifted. We could go on about Beanie if you'd let me, but I'll just finish up about Nick. He's
You have 4 hours left.
Great. So, as I was saying, no, but Nick is who I always wanted to be in high school, but unfortunately didn't have the mature mindset to understand that people respond best to positivity rather than negativity. And I thought that if I shut people out, it would make me look more, desirable. And it wasn't until around the time I got Nick that I realized people respond best to love and, attention. And if you can give that to people, they'll give it right back. And that is something that he does in spades.
Yeah, I heard.
And that's, love everybody. Love the person next to you, too.
Absolutely.
They need it, man.
You take that home with you.
Austin, what about for you? So,
Okay. So I originally actually went, and I was on spring break, and at NYU, I just graduated last year, and education. So then I originally went in for Jared, and I did the thing. And then Allison Jones, our queen, our goddess, just incredible woman, incredible lady. Google her, study her.
Casting director of just the best in the world. Best.
Yeah. The best. Freaks and Geeks, the Office, just everything. She's incredible. So she was like, you know what? Could you read this? And I got it. And I was like, okay. And she was like, can you come back when you leave? I said Monday. She was like, okay, come back on Sunday. I want you to meet the director. So then I came back on Sunday, and Olivia shows up in the door. And I'm like, okay, that's Olivia Wilde, but I kept it cool. And about designing Alan, okay, so I had only a little time to kind of read it and kind of think, okay, what are my choices? And he's a musical theater star. The seeker of attention. There's always that, that kind of Ryan and Sharpay kind of dynamic that you see in theater. And it's usually a girl and a guy, but they actually made the astute decision to be like, you know what? Let's flip that dynamic on its head and make them both men and make them both queer men, which we haven't really seen at all, especially two queer men and one of color. It's just running the department is usually, that girl with the best friend that it's the gay friend is just the seasoning, or the side. And now it's they have the power to bring their vision to life. So George is more the visionary and Alan is more the executor of the vision. So I really just thought of like, I grew up in Georgia, I grew up a pastor's kid, I was in the church. So I could not express myself or be open or a lot with anything that I was thinking in terms of queerness. So nobody in my theater department at my private Christian school was out here trying to be anything that exuded anything of queerness for real. We were all in everybody was in uniform. Nobody, if anybody was thin, they was trying to shut that down, you know what I mean? And so I was like, you know what? If there was a universe where I could let the femme go and I could let the eccentricity go and just, you know, flow out and be eccentric and demand my space and reclaim my time all the time, where would that take me? And then I was born.
Olivia, you're dealing with a lot of wonderful personalities in this movie. It's your directorial debut. You've got the doll scene, you've got a underwater scene, you've got a dance sequence. You've got a lot going on in this movie. Talk to me about like bringing it all together.
Well, the thing is, to me, that time in life is so heightened. Like experiences are just so heightened, and it's, you know, the last time in your life you're truly independent, and you're at that stage before life becomes kind of complicated, and there's rent and health insurance and jobs and all of the things. But this is the time in your life when your energy and your imagination is all directed towards, you know, like what's going on in your world, and it's just very heightened, and it's different for everyone. But I thought, if we're going to tell a story about this time and this in these characters' lives, we have to go for it, and we have to make it. We have to put the audience viscerally in that emotional place so that they can remember. It feels intense to be young. It's intense. Everything. The stakes are so high. And when, you know, we can kind of laugh about like, oh, I used to fantasize about the guy or the girl I had a crush on, but it's like, no, you really did fantasize. Like, you went there in your mind. And I hope you still do. But definitely at that age, we let ourselves go for it. So I wanted to illustrate that. And I also feel like, I mean, I just love movies so much. And I think about, why do we make narrative features as opposed to documentaries? Like, why make a movie? If you choose to make a movie, it better be because you want to use the tools of filmmaking to illustrate something we can't see on our own. Make a movie so you can show me the inside of someone's mind. Make a movie so you can show me a different way of communicating. And I just think that's the most exciting thing about this medium. So I didn't know if I'd ever get a chance to make another movie. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna flex. Because I love this, and this is my dream come true. And I was so lucky that everybody was on board. And when I said to Beanie and Mason, listen, I know you guys are already working, 90 hours a week on this movie. So on your one day off on the weekends, I would like you to rehearse downtown with our incredible choreographer, Tina Thompson, who's just extraordinary, to create this dance sequence. And they were like, yes, wonderful, love it, love it, love it. And then when I said to, Kaitlyn, we're going to do this underwater sequence, and it's going to be a little bit more extended than what you see in the script, and I want you to just dive underwater and explore and go through, 5 intense emotions underwater with your eyes open. She was like, love it, yes, wonderful, here I go. So with collaborators like this, you can try things, you can go for it. It doesn't happen on your own. That's a team effort. When I said I wanted to do that stop motion Barbie sequence, and of course everyone in the room was like, really? Why? And I was like, because it's essential. And then, the studio let me do it, which was already mind-boggling, and we worked to create stop motion, which is very, very difficult. Turns out, it takes a lot of time. And we worked with a company out of Portland called Shadow Machine, and they created replicas of the girls. And then we went for it, and I had these two improvising to create the voiceover, and then we animated to match their performances. So anyway, I'm just so lucky because I did really have the desire to play with this medium and do something interesting, but it just was only possible because everybody wanted to go for it.
Kaitlyn and Beanie, about that doll scene. What stuck out for you two, like being part of bringing that alive? What about that conversation that was happening in that scene stuck out to you two?
Oh, the doll scene specifically. Oh gosh, everything. It's one of those things that you can't, when Olivia first told me about it, it was actually in our first meeting that you brought this up to me, this Barbie dream sequence idea, and I was like, oh, all right. But it's nothing you can really it's not a scene you can really picture until you literally see the movie as a whole, which is how I ended up seeing it for the first time. So we were just sending in phone recordings for a few months because it was a long process. But it went through so many iterations, and I don't know, it was just funny riffing with you, really. It was so fun.
It was so fun. The fact that Where's My Chub ended up in the movie makes me infinitely joyous.
The cornhole was fully you in the moment.
We were just improvising as dolls, as you do.
As you do.
But my favorite thing about it is, my favorite thing about Booksmart is that the humor comes from their intelligence, and it comes from their love for one another. And the idea of their first time taking drugs, them becoming the objectified male gaze, is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then seeing it come to life was so extraordinary, and it was just, it's so outlandish and yet so rooted in intelligence, which is such an incredible combination. And that is Olivia Wilde. Those are her ideas. They're so vibrant and fresh and so new, and yet so deeply intelligent, and have so much more going on underneath than what meets the eye through humor. And that's the joy of the movie, I think.
I guess I thought of my favorite part was started out as a nightmare for Amy. Actually, she ended up being turned on by the doll, which was very fun to do. Get to just do that. It's fun.
My.
Eduardo, talk to us a little bit about, one of the things that I love about the movie is kind of effortlessly diverse. It actually looks like a high school. I'm wondering from your experiences, y'all all are young, it looks like at least. So good skin.
Appreciate that.
Talk to us about talk to us about what you remember from your high school experience that you brought with you into the movie.
What I brought with me in my high school experience. Okay. I talked about that this morning. I was geez, I was high school, when I graduated 2012, that's not even that long ago.
It's not at all.
But life was so damn different back then compared to now, so I can't even imagine what it's like for a kid to be in high school right now with cell phones, what they are. I used to have to flip, my phone would slide open, and it had buttons, and that's how I texted. Now it's now I think it's okay to have your cell phone in class, right? So what I brought to the table was I tried to be as laid back as I could be compared to me when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I actually did try. I believe it or not, okay, I did. My mom would bug out when I would come home with a B+. She'd be like, honey, why didn't you just get the A? And it's Mom, why did we get, no, I'm not going to get political. Okay, so, no. But basically that's what I did, is I tried to be as laid back and enjoy, how do I say this? I tried to be a kid in high school that is actually enjoying the ride, as opposed to somebody that I guess Beanie and Kaitlyn's characters were so uptight all the time because they're looking forward to the future, but they're missing out on the now. So I guess that's what I did, is I was okay, I'm gonna be a kid that's hanging out, having fun. I already flunked 7th grade twice, so it's I'm still coasting. I've been through worse.
I have a question for you two, but we're going to come to the audience for a couple questions, so start percolating and pondering, okay, right now. One of the things that I like about the movie is that I feel with these types of coming-of-age movies, they're often just one black character. right?
There's two.
We got two, but then you're also, both of your characters are also
Jessica's also
Jessica's also black male characters, but you're also both very different. And like, you know, they both have like kind of their own individual identities. I'm just wondering if that like stuck out to either of you as you were going through the process.
It's interesting because you see, like, there are so many different kinds of like queerness to explore, and it's just so interesting seeing different kinds of queerness in media today. I'm gonna bring it back down. So, like, there's another show that I'm about to be on where I'm a gay character as well, but it's like the more, you know, I don't know, the mask, you know, whatever. I don't know what that, you know, that kind of queer gender performance, I suppose. And Alan would be considered the femme one, and maybe Noah's character would be considered something else, and you know, Victoria's character was thought to be one way because of her gender performance, and it turned out that she just literally was not, which is honestly a phenomenon that happens a lot, all too often, especially, you know, we talk to be like, oh, yeah. But that's neither here nor there. Between, you know, Miss Fine is just like, I've never seen a character like Miss Fine, just like, even especially as a woman of color. She's transparently just so human and down to earth with her students. And the principal is also that way, even taking it out of color, just like all of the adults in the movie are actually like human beings. And it's hard to see adults as human beings when you're in high school. You just see them all as like drone robot, like dictator authoritarians who like are no fun. And I don't know, I'm just fresh out of college, so like low key I'm like getting out of that right now. So I mean, yeah, you can.
Yeah, and sort of, I'd say, branching off that, is I love in this film specifically the way that teachers, Miss Fine, I'll say, to keep it pointed, is not just this antagonistic force to force these kids to change through adversity. Like in most teen movies growing up, I feel like these teachers were just white men in tweed jackets telling you when you had to go to detention and when you're out of detention to find your ass back in that classroom.
Even if they were inspirational on that Mr. Feeney stuff.
Exactly. And in this case, Miss Fine has wants. She has desires. She has, you know, things that bother her, people she loves, and just like an actual teacher would in real life. And she's met with a ton of respect and love from the people around her. And that, to me, spoke volumes. As far as it pertains to Nick, something I love just personally is a black male character who is as loving and positive to other men as Nick is, also to women as well, of course, but there's something about a young man being able to tell his other young male friends how much he appreciates them and loves them. As Molly says, Nick and Theo's relationship is, what was the word? Was it palpable?
Palpable.
Is palpable because we just love each other so much. I mean, how could you know how good looking he is? But in addition to that, it's just something I love to see. Just more, absolutely, just more positive, loving relationships in young people, not just young men, but young women as well. Molly and Amy love each other unconditionally, as Kaitlyn and Beanie do in real life. I can attest to it. And the same way we love each other, it's just positively touching.
You know, there's something just on that point that I've been thinking a lot about recently, which is, you know, we mentioned Allison Jones before and what an extraordinary casting director she is. And I really appreciated that when I said to her, listen, it's important to me that we create a cast that's realistic, and I want diversity without being overly, like, awkwardly intentional about it. I just want that to be our goal, but to make it really organic. And she's like, what we're gonna do is just see everyone great. And when you see everyone great, you end up with a more representative group of people. And so I urge everyone who has the power to cast, look further than you think you should look. These guys all have varying degrees of experience, and I think it's just really important to look at the people who maybe don't have as much on their resumes and just see them for their ideas and their skill and their passion. Another thing that I think is really essential in terms of the casting business is in terms of breakdowns. I think removing all physical descriptors in breakdowns, because there is a subtle racism that happens in breakdowns. Even when, for instance, this wasn't for this movie, but a description of like, oh, the soccer player star, he flicks his hair out of his eyes,
My hair don't flick.
Right, like don't include weird descriptions that is like subtly suggesting you don't want to see an entire race of people. And that happens so much. It happens like her ponytail bounces as she walks down, her blue eyes shimmer. So I just noticed that a lot, and I've seen it for years. I used to work in casting 100,000 years ago, and I would see that, and I was like, this is bizarre, and this is sending really unhelpful subconscious signals. So it's just something that I've learned that I think we can evolve beyond.
All right. I'm getting text messages from the organizer saying we're talking too much. So we only have time for one question. But make it a good one. Okay? Oh, am I choosing? We're going to go all the way up top. Yes, you. They're coming up with a microphone.
Make it good.
Make it real
You've been
good.
so sweet this whole time, by the way. You're so...
Thank you. First of all, congratulations. It is a perfect film. I have zero critique. This is my second time watching it. And I will watch it again just because of how represented I feel.
Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, Olivia, because of what you've given us to take a look at, I feel like I don't know what your weakness in directing is. And as a filmmaker, as a director and producer myself, I guess I want to know how you approach your weakness, because the music is amazing, and I know you directed music videos before. Also, like, cinematography is amazing, the pool scene is amazing, the car, everything is just great. So I guess I want to learn from you as to how do you approach things that perhaps are new and you don't feel so much strength in.
I'm so glad you asked that. It's something that I learned a lot about on this film, because there were so many big ideas and big dreams that I had, and so often I would encounter a technical challenge within them where I'd realize I don't know yet how to do that. But the best thing about being a director is that you are merely the coach assembling the team. So you get to seek out the great artists who will make your dreams come true. So the most important skill of being a director is communication. So you can explain your ideas to people, and someone out there will say, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. I can see what you're seeing, and I can do that with you. And then it's your job to support them and not control them completely. Let them tell you how to do it even better than you had it in your mind. And say, okay, great, thank you. Now you have that, and I trust you, and we are linked, not ranked. We are doing this together. Let me now think of this other idea. And as opposed to thinking that you as the director must control everything and be responsible for everything, it's really a matter of just linking with several different artists, creating an environment conducive to their best work, supporting them unconditionally, remaining clear-headed and fearless and decisive, but knowing nothing in your imagination is out of your reach. At nothing. The wildest ideas you have are totally possible, even in your first film, because it's just about empowering someone great to do it with you.
That was a great question. A greater answer. The movie comes out next week. Tell the world. Can we get one more round of applause for Olivia? Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you.